my freshman year in college, when I was just a few years older than many of you, I saw treasure on the bulletin board at the Department of Physics. It was a job ad. The job was to winter over in Antarctica, running a cosmic ray physics lab. I really wanted that job. I had to wait 3 years until I could apply for it as a senior. But I applied for it, went through a long interview process, and got the job. But why did I want it so much? I can't really answer that, even to myself. The answer is an emotion, and I cannot describe that emotion in words. But I think what really got me hooked was the words winter over. Wintering over in Antarctica means enduring or going through the long polar night that lasts for 4 months of darkness. Wintering over in Antarctica means enduring bitterly cold temperatures, ferocious windstorms, and a not insignificant amount of physical and mental risk. Wintering over in Antarctica means near complete isolation from the rest of the world. Wintering over is about as close to living on another planet as it is possible to do. Wintering over means total adventure, and I craved that adventure, and I still crave that adventure. And I learned just how much fun adventure is. Let me give you a few examples. To get to Antarctica, I first went to Christchurch, New Zealand, and there to board a very large US Air Force C-141 cargo plane for the 5-hour flight to the Antarctic. To get on the cargo plane, I did not need to show a boarding pass, but I did need to show that I was wearing these. These are dog tags. I was afraid to ask why we needed to wear dog tags, because I was pretty sure I didn't want to know the answer. This very large 4-engine Air Force plane does not land in the Antarctic on a nice long concrete runway. This very large plane lands on floating sea ice. I admit I was apprehensive as the plane came down for a landing, but I didn't need to worry. It was the gentlest landing I have ever felt. When I stepped off the plane, I was greeted with a wonderful view of snow and ice and glaciers and mountains and fantastically blue sky in every direction. Mountains that seemed just a few miles away, that you could just walk over to, actually were 60 miles away. The air is so fantastically clear that very distant things actually appear very close. It was so cold that when I breathed through my nostrils, I could feel my nose hairs freezing. Antarctica is a really beautiful place, but it is also a very dangerous place. One of the first things I had to do was to attend survival school. Survival school is taught by the search and rescue team. Here is the classroom. This is the Ross Ice Shelf at the base of Mount Erebus. The class was to learn survival skills for 2 full days out on the ice. We learned survival skills such as walking roped together across a crevasse field, and each of us had to fall into a crevasse at least once. And we had to rescue each other from the crevasses. And we learned to climb a sheer 50-foot ice cliff straight up and rappel back down a 50-foot ice cliff. Then we had to build shelter for ourselves for the night. It was still daylight, but I call it night. My group built a snow trench, 6 feet down trench, carved some bunks out of the edges, and get some sleeping bags and sleep in the ice, literally in the ice. It was about minus 15 degrees. One of the dangers of the Antarctic, or one of the many dangers of the Antarctic, is actually the sun. On the next day, we climbed over to that castle rock on the left side of the screen. We did not notice that 2 members of the class did not wear their sunglasses all of the time. When we came back to the camp, more or less in the middle there, they had snow blindness. They could not see. What they had done was sunburned the insides of their eyeballs. You can imagine what that might feel like. Eventually, the sun does go away. This is sunset day. It's a very emotional time. This is the last time we would see the sun for 4 months. It feels as if you're leaving the world. This is sunrise, high noon, and sunset, all at the same time, all at the same place. There are many crosses like this in Antarctica. They each commemorate the place where somebody died. This is Vince's cross. He fell to his death at this spot in 1902. He was just 22 years old when he died. I was 22 years old when I took this picture. The most intense experience I had in the Antarctic was during the winter, on Midwinter's Day. On that day, the US Air Force airdrops supplies to us by parachute. It is too cold and dark for them to be able to land. A few minutes before the airdrop, I was outside and I looked up at the beautiful stars, and I saw high up the blinking light of the tanker aircraft that refuels the cargo plane in midair. The sight of that blinking light was and continues to be one of the most intense experiences I've ever had. I wish I could describe in words what that emotion was that I felt then and feel right now as well, but I cannot. Eventually, the sun returns, and you can see by how tired the flag is that it's been blown to pieces by the winds during the winter. I wish I had more time to talk about the many hundreds of other adventures I had during my year there, and hundreds is perhaps an underestimate. I can't talk about the chainsaw incident, or what it was like to go out on the sea ice and practice blowing up dynamite charges for science, or what it was like to drive across the featureless polar plateau near the South Pole, where in every direction, everything looks exactly the same, including up and down. Or what it was like to just hang out with the penguins on an ice floe and chat about the important topics of the day with them. Except we never call them penguins, we always call them penguinos. I hope I've inspired, or can inspire, some of you to think about how you might do a similar adventure. It's not everybody's thing to want to go to the Antarctic, but everybody has something they can do that will inspire them as much as the Antarctic inspired me. A perfect time to do such an adventure is when you're young. I did it right out of college. Another perfect time to do it is anytime else. The company where I work right now recently won a contract to build a lander to go to the South Pole of the moon. The adventure continues. Thank you.